Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It's Friday, TGIFF. It is Reckless Fridays over here. AmericanScouser.com's Morning Coffee is brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee. Go check them out. I will throw the link down here. I have it here going right now and definitely recommend it. Not saying because it's a sponsor, as Matush would say, definitely recommend it. And here is the link down there. The boys should be jumping out shortly. I know for sure John is caught up in a meeting, not very well prepared today, like a Liverpool team going away to France, if you will, not totally prepared and jumping on board. Alan is on board as always. Good morning, Alan. A lot to get to. Obviously, we're going to talk about the game from yesterday. And then I wanted to kind of touch on some of the stuff Bobby is saying. We're going into the international break next week, so we'll be digging for topics. So I figured, we can really analyze the full thing on detail, but a few of the main storylines, I guess, that came out of it, we'll address today. And then next week, when we're bored with international headlines or lack thereof, we'll probably revisit again because there's a lot of, I don't like some of them is I guess interesting and to get his perspective and stuff like that, but I am more shocked at the number of people that are shocked about some of the stuff he's saying because they've either never played a game, never played in a team, or they are just way too naive. I mean, if you thought everybody in a 24 man or whatever squad they have going at a regular basis training together and stuff, if you really think just because they're all wearing the same jersey, working basically ultimately for the same company, are getting along, you got another thing coming when you do enter a business world with multiple people, is all I gotta say, because it's just not doable. The key is, even if you do not like the other person or can't get along and stuff like that, are you able to work together? And not only work together, I mean, you can work together either freaking way, but be productive together and be able to help each other get to the goal, even though deep down you might not care for the person. But I was really shocked to see that people thought that was a possibility, and I'm like, do you guys not work, or have you never been in the group project where you got to do the freaking group projects? But there's somebody that you cannot stand in there. But one thing I could not stand personally was this right here, the game from yesterday. We'll talk. We weren't able to do the post match last night, so we will spend a lot of time probably covering the game today and trying to make sense of what we saw. My initial reaction, this is from Sofa Score, kind of putting it up there for the lineup and how we lined up, kind of a deal. Their grades are really all over the place and never make sense to me. I mean, if I'm Gabriel Suazo, and I'm like, what did I do that was worse than Costas? Is probably what the guy is thinking if he's looking at these ratings this morning. It was like, how bad was I that my rating was lower than Costas over here, because he was at 5.8. I mean, I guess you see the ratings right there in terms of who is higher than the others on the team. I think this is not too shabby, but it's definitely very, very generous overall. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's get the big one out of the way. I know John is about to join us, so we'll ask him as well. Having watched a lot of replays on it now, I will say that, with the VAR call, we did kind of get robbed on that deal, and it should have probably handled. They should probably not gone that far back, 15 minutes ahead, and watched the handball. But to be fair, my initial reaction was, as I was watching it, there he is, Gravenberg Fantasy. What's going on, John?
I'm good. I just came off of a meeting. I'm kind of late. I was speaking with Gravenberg himself, like I told you yesterday, working on getting my access. But here I am. Sorry I'm late, guys.
Yeah, I was saying we're very unprepared today, like a Liverpool team going away to France. But so I was talking about the call when we were talking, and you were on the Discord channel as well, in the game channel where we're talking about the game, which you should definitely join. By the way, if you're watching the game alone and yelling and screaming to yourself, you don't need to anymore. You can yell and scream and bitch and moan along with us. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. So let me shoot the link right here. Just click on it if you have Discord. if you don't have Discord, you should have Discord. Really, even if you're not a gamer, it used to be back in the day, John. It was like for gamers like us. Now it's for everyone. But yeah, hop
Yeah.
on there and join the conversation. But as we were talking, I think we both felt overall the same. Having seen probably a bunch of replays now, where do you stand on that last second equalizer?
Yeah, I can see where the likes of Kazi were coming from yesterday. It's just that I was supremely pissed, man. Absolutely supremely pissed. You know, when there's logic right in front of you, where there's a clear explanation, where everything makes sense, but you're just so absolutely angry that nothing makes sense. Like that was just me yesterday, because that is just okay. I know you touched up on it before, before I came on, but what about that performance? That is just absolutely disgraceful. Like, I'm just what I know we've seen some stinkers over the years, but and I know this is a squad in transition, all that, like a lot of new names, but you can't be losing in that manner, towards a no disrespect to Toulouse, but no, just no, right?
I mean,
So
you can lose to a bad team, but not in that fashion, I guess.
I mean, I'd even argue that you can't. Like, I don't know. We're good enough. Like, I know they have off days, right?
Yeah,
But look at the composition of the squad, Tim. These are players who want to get in the first team. So how are you guys gonna get into the first team with that performance,
heck, half
right?
of them aren't in the first team.
Right, exactly. So like you have guys like Endo, you have guys like Simicast, right? You have guys like Harvey. Oh, Harvey was good, but then you know what I mean. Like you have these guys who are trying to vie for a first team place, who dropped this performance, right? I know we're gonna single out a few. It's just I don't know. Again, the anger is still spilling over for me early this morning, and thank God I have my reckless coffee to help me get through it. But yeah, I don't know. Listen, before I go on a tangent, let's just get on straight and talk about what we need to, because I'm feeling a lot of things right now.
No, I mean that's the thing. I
Yeah,
felt, and that's why, as I was watching, especially my initial reaction definitely was, I don't know, the ball came from there before we crossed it in. I know then it
yeah,
becomes like a
yeah.
pinball in the middle, but that's how the attack started. So I was like, I didn't even celebrate, but that could partially because I was kind of pissed at what I was watching,
Yeah, yeah,
or the fact that I didn't know that there was a handball in the buildup, and I was like, wow, this might come back, and it always sucks as you're watching it and you see something like that happen, a
yeah.
possible foul or something. You're like, ugh, it's almost like I wish we don't score, or like play the ball back and like kill another 15 seconds so that goes away. But
Hmm.
having seen some replays, yes, they did go way far back, not really in the rule, like against the specific rule itself, like how it
Right.
reads, and the goal should have stood.
Hmm.
But even then, aside from like robbing probably like a very important and key moment in Kwanzaa's career,
Yeah,
really it would not change how I feel about the game. I just felt like twice in the same week
yeah.
we went out there thinking we're
It's fine.
going to win,
Yeah,
which confidence is good until you're overconfident and you become complacent, like you're saying, and expecting it to happen regardless of what you put in, like thinking that the outcome is going to be the same.
yeah. I feel like we didn't realize that these guys are desperate. Like we were talking about it in the pregame, that these guys need the points. Like if they got a point, they would kill us for a point,
Yeah,
and they got all three. So like you have to anticipate that sort of desperation. And I felt like, the guys, maybe the Liverpool coaching staff and the players kind of expected the opponents to be a bit more conservative, maybe. And that wasn't the case. Like granted, two of the goals that we conceded were our own doing, were
yeah,
mistakes, right? But how do you force teams to make mistakes? By ramping up the pressure, by sort of stamping your initiative on them. And I felt like, 100% credit to Toulouse. They showed up, they wanted it more. And for me, that is my biggest pet peeve, whether it's in, soccer, or whether it's in foot or basketball, when my team that I support shows up thinking that they've won the game, putting in a half-assed effort, right? Going down big, and then putting in like effort towards the end. Like it's what you call fake effort, right? It's what you call fake
yeah.
effort. So
Or
like,
it's not like focused effort or
yeah,
constant
yeah,
constant effort. It's like here and there. You're like, let's give it a shot. Like, maybe
yeah,
not. It's just And that's the feeling I've gotten now 2 games in a row. I feel
Yeah.
like where they've kind of come out expecting a win. And I know, like, it is cliche, like, to be like, they want to, I'm sure they want to win. And I'm sure they want to win just as bad, but just wanting it and willing to kind of work for it are 2 different things. And I think
Hmm.
that's what we're lacking in both games. When you see your team being beat out to every 50-50 ball,
Yeah.
and like every loose ball and stuff like that, I mean, that's the theme there. But I guess this is what I get to, right? And this is probably my more bigger frustration. And I know, and I kind of like mocked like Klopp saying like he was gonna like figure it out. He wasn't rocket science. He was gonna see why the boys were not counter pressing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was gonna watch a lot of tape. We thought till Thursday. So maybe he's waiting for the weekend game to watch the tape. And you could tell in his post match that he was irked and pissed
Yeah.
with that performance. But I guess what I come back down to is we were definitely happy with this lineup, and we were
Hmm.
looking forward to watching this lineup when we
Hmm.
talked about it in the pre-match. So it's not fair now to go back and say, well, this guy should have played, that guy should have played, right? We were happy
Yeah.
with it. We were like,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. Let's see what we get. Excited to watch this guy, excited to watch that guy, whatever. So it's not fair to go back now and say, well, instead of Cody, it should be this guy. Instead of Ben Doak, it should be this, right? So that's we're not.
I did say though that I would have liked Jota to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll give you that. But I think overall we were like, this is pretty good. Like, this should be more than enough.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it really should be. But I think when you look over here, when an entire team doesn't perform, it's not like you're calling out 1 or 2 stinkers. And there is a couple of like really over the top stinkers in this game.
Hmm.
But when everybody plays down, is it because a couple, like, 2, 3 stinkers are making the rest of the play, spoil the
Yeah.
rest of the baskets? Or this entire team goes out there with the same mentality? It makes some people more shit than others. So it goes kind of on the coaching staff and stuff in terms of making sure these guys have the mindset to actually play.
The thing is, I think it's a combination of both, and it doesn't help that Klopp's style is like walking a tightrope, where we're supremely at risk, but we're also very likely to put 5 past the opponent, if that makes sense. Like, we have a lot of players who are just integrating to the system, and Endo looked 3 steps slower than everyone else yesterday. When he got that early yellow, it pretty much set the tone for everything. Simicast giving away the ball. You remember when we got smashed 7-2 by Villa? I always say that if we didn't concede that early goal with Adrian and Gomez, messing around there, we probably wouldn't have been beaten by 7 goals,
Yes,
7-2, or
agree.
maybe we actually would have won the game. So it's kind of like the what you're saying, Tim. I think in terms of like setting the tone, one player looking nervous. I think the moment Simicast gave that ball in, we pretty much sealed our fates because everyone was nervous. Everyone. This wasn't our first team. I don't think there was enough leadership. Like, I know you were saying we can't really criticize the players in because they should have more than enough to win this game. But the lack of leadership on that pitch, even when Trent came on, like I was saying, like as the game was dying down, man, it would have been great to have Big Verge on the bench here. Then bring him in for maybe like Matip or Kwanzaa when we were down maybe 3-2 or when we got to 2-1. That would have been, we probably would have won the game. Right. We probably would have won the game if you got him in there because the organization was lacking. You had players doing Cruyff turns near our box, leading to second goals. So like it was just a miserable performance. But to answer your question, I think if there's just one specific moment that led to everything falling apart, it was definitely that Simicast giveaway.
See,
felt
I
like that.
would buy that, but like we're talking, that's what I was trying to see. Like when the goal was,
Yeah.
that was the 36 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't see anything in the first 35 minutes that told me, oh, yeah, we came to play. There are games
Yeah,
where
I
you
guess.
go out there and you watch your team and you're like, they came to play, right? And it didn't look like that at all. They came for the French baguettes is what it looked like. I mean, when you were like watching them. So it's, and I know what you mean. Maybe they didn't look as dangerous either. It didn't look like they were about to score too, or it didn't look like that, but it looked like they could play for a while, and it was going to be it looked like a draw until we were like, hey, why don't you guys score? Here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then Costas gave the ball. But Endo, I mean, really, Endo's yellow probably should have been the red because there was an incident earlier that should have been a yellow.
Yeah.
And then he did another one that should have definitely been the second yellow.
Mm.
he is lucky to survive. I mean, he should have been gone. Looks like he got the yellow on the 34th. That should have been a red because I thought the first one was clearly a yellow. The dude was very forgiving in tactical fouls throughout the game for both teams. So at least he was consistent. We'll give him that. But I felt like that. I mean, the first one he did was like the definition of a tactical foul. And then, like very reckless and like you said, always 2 steps behind.
how concerned are you with Endo right now? Because I know we're like give him time, give him some games to adjust, but how concerned are you that he probably won't be seeing a Premier League pitch anytime soon? Because I
No, I
don't.
mean, if you had any thought of this weekend, right, with no
Yeah, yeah,
McAllister, I don't think anybody. I think we were probably suggesting it on Tuesday
yeah, yeah.
and Wednesday. I don't think on this Friday anybody is saying Brentford game and they should be out there.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same with Simicast as well. We had him as Robo's replacement, but Joe Gomez at left back all the way. Like Gali was saying on the Discord yesterday, we had our best performer was a guy on the left who only uses his right foot.
Yeah.
And credit to Joe Gomez, he did everything he could out there. It's just that the rest of the team didn't. This decided to, like you said, get some baguettes, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sparky says last 2 performances we haven't turned up. And that's what I mean. Like, whose fault is that when an entire team does not turn up? Who is that on? Isn't that partially on Klopp or management or whoever is doing it? Somebody has to, be more accountable in terms of like the attitude out there. And I think it's more concerning when that attitude doesn't change, like mid-game, halftime, and stuff like that. That's, I think, a bit more frustrating where you might not sense that, everybody's up for it. But either you do substitutions or a halftime or a chewing or whatever it is, like the team kind of wakes up. It's harder when you're away. In both cases, we were away. Like the performances that Sparky is referring to, both Luton and this one. So it's a bit harder because you don't have the fans to kick you in the ass in a good way or a bad way to get you going. But still, I feel like some of the blame has to be on Klopp, and you could tell he was pretty pissed in the post match. But
How much do you put it on leadership on the pitch? Like I mentioned Van Dijk a while ago, him not being on the bench as an option to bring in.
I know Van Dijk was out there in Luton game. That didn't make a freaking difference. Trent was out there.
I thought
I don't think the current captains are not the captains that you want to kind of like push. I think they are. I don't know about Trent. I don't. I really question any kind
I
of.
think Big Verge has been good this year.
Verge is more like gonna lead by calm as you like, and be physical and talk to the ref and stuff like that. Lead by example. I feel like Mo is the same way when he's on the pitch. Like when he came on, he goes about the stuff. Whether he plays good or bad does not matter in terms of like how his approach to the game and how seriously he takes it. So you would hope that kind of like goes to other people. But I'll be honest, like when we put in the troops at halftime, everybody, like, so Costas comes out, Endo comes out, Bando comes out. So Mo, Trent, Szoboszlai.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Mo, because he's Mo, I think, just that threat kind of changed the game. I couldn't even tell you what the other two really contributed. I don't know what grades they have for them. They have Trent at 7.3.
Trent at 7.3.
Yeah, did he get one of the assists or something like that? Because that's kind of like skewed. I mean,
Yeah.
Szoboszlai at 6.7 is ridiculously generous.
Yeah, he didn't do much. And listen, to all our viewers at American Scouser, I wholeheartedly apologize for the form that Szoboszlai is going through right now. Because after that piece I wrote praising the hell out of him, that piece was entitled "Our Newest Ace." He's looked more like a joker the last few games. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just like a bad run or whatever. Because let's be real, like majority of the team hasn't been performing well. Although a counter argument could be made that the team isn't performing well because Szoboszlai is key to a lot of what we do right now. So it could work that way too. But
yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, but that's my thing. Like, we can't even pick. I think when you look at this current lineup, right? This current game, you were like, hey, everybody was poor, but these guys were really crap. It's probably cost us an Endo, right?
I have to say that I'm pretty disappointed with McAllister as well. Like
Really, he was getting a lot of flack. I did not think he was
I
as bad.
right. I think he isn't as secure as the. You know how we talk about like him having to secure the ball more when he's playing the six. I think that kind of spilled off on him when he was at the eight to a lesser extent. Like in this game, we needed control, right? Like we needed control more than anything, and I felt like he was the player on the pitch there to give that control. So I guess it's just
Oh, I see what you mean there. Like
yeah, the fact that
midfield.
like I see McAllister as kind of a Thiago kind of guy, where he can dictate play with his passing and everything, and he's pretty good on the dribble, protecting the ball. So my expectation for him is that when we give him the ball, it's going to be a lot of spraying the passes out wide, a lot of accurate short passes, maybe some threaded ones here and there. So that's kind of what disappointed me with him yesterday. Like we didn't have that control. Obviously, it's unfair for me to put it all on him, but I felt like he's the player among everyone on that pitch to like sort of enforce that level of control that we desperately needed yesterday, if that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, and yeah, you're probably right in terms of, if you see him, because he was pretty much out there. I mean, yeah, he even had the assist for. I mean, I don't know how, if that you called it an assist, but it was still like a through ball that went out to like Jota.
yeah,
I thought he was able to get the ball in between the lines and stuff. Um, Performance down to individual, each player owes his performance. I mean, I do understand that as well. But at the same time, you got to look at people around you and see what they're doing and how it affects you. But having said that, you should be able to single out. If we're able to say, I mean, to go with Sparky's points and probably make it more valid, if we can like look at the lineup and say, Joe Gomez was pretty decent and
yeah,
Harvey tried and stuff like that. So obviously your performance can kind of not like in some ways single you out or pull you away from the rest of the performance in terms of, you looked better than the rest.
mm-hmm.
Having said that, it was a pretty darn low bar yesterday.
Yeah,
And I guess the bigger question now is how does this result does not matter. The draw was not going to matter either. And
mm-hmm.
like you say, if you're making this game, I think the thing that irks me the most and worries me the most about Sunday is, as fans are more worried about the VAR call and we're getting screwed everywhere we go and stuff like that. Honestly, yes, the more I watch it, I agree that we did get screwed on that call, but I find it so freaking hard. So sit down here and blame that for not getting a draw
yeah,
in the game where we're clearly a lot better team. And you could see in the last 15 minutes when we decided to, you know what, fuck, let's play.
yeah, yeah,
You could tell the difference between the two teams. So if you're making the thing you're taking away from this game is VAR screws us. Yeah, VAR will keep screwing you, man. Because if you can't call out,
yeah,
this
yeah.
team went out there and played. Like I said, that's why maybe I was so reserved and I was like, meh. When the VAR
Hey,
screwed us, I was
yeah,
like, man,
I was with you
man.
yesterday. I was with you yesterday, man. We were holding down the fort in that Discord channel with terms of like you and I, like in terms of like the performance. Like if we're being honest, on merit, we do not deserve anything. And we do, and rightfully so, we didn't get anything from it, right? So we were talking about it with the others. Yeah, we're it's technically the wrong call. Yes, we would have gotten the draw if everything went our way. But the fact again, it's the whole concept of having to rely on it. We should be performing well enough that a VAR call like this, whether wrong or not, or whether it's going to be accurately, whether the rules are going to be followed accurately or to the letter, should be affecting us. Shouldn't matter, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, we were hammering home during the pre-match. This is a game that we should win, right? No question. Like that lineup should be enough, and the fact that it's come down to a VAR call. Listen, again, it's the wrong call. I just
No, and here's the thing, Sparky says can't blame VAR performance, and I definitely agree. And here's what really ticks me off is because I know the fans who are just piling on VAR, letting the team escape with yet another half-assed performance where they went out there with no really intent or aggression, and we got outplayed, not in terms of out hustled, maybe I should say, outworked on the pitch very clearly. So anybody, even if you do not know the game, you could kind of tell which team, which set of players were more aggressive.
Aggressive, yeah.
Even if we get to draw, these guys would say, "Oh, the team showed character and came back and stuff." Waking up is not showing character. Showing character would be once that mistake happened, you start a game really slow. Once that mistake happened and we went down 1-0, you wake up, you come back and beat them 4-1. That's showing character. Showing character, like by just finally waking up and we're like, oh, maybe we should play. That's not showing character. That's basically shaking off your half-ass performance a little bit.
It's the idea of VAR excusing like a performance, if that makes sense. Like the fact that this performance obviously is unacceptable. So I feel like a loss would kind of kick them in the ass better, if that makes sense, would give them a better kick up the ass in terms of, this performance, look what it cost us, a loss, right? Whereas if it's like a draw, you're going to be like, we kind of got away with it. Maybe next time we can kind of half-ass our way through it again and maybe get something out of it. It sets the standard, I guess, is the point that I think you were trying to make as well. Like, we get where we deserve here. So for the next game, we know not to start like this. We know not to put this effort. So I think that's like the gist of our argument.
And I think the tough part is I thought that was a lesson learned last weekend. And maybe they were like, in the Premier League, we can't start half asleep.
But in the Europa League,
like, oh shit, we can't do it in Europa either, I guess. That's what it felt like. And let's see what happens. But honestly, like a team like Brentford, they're not Luton Town.
Yeah,
and they're going to be a lot more dangerous on the counter.
Yeah, they're going to shred us on the counter if we listen. If we show up like we did in this game, we're going to go 2-0 down in like 15 minutes. That's for sure.
That's my concern there. I mean, good to see VR problems, not just CPL problems.
I guess Tim, trying to bring out my naive young self, looking at the glass half full sort of perspective. These games that we sort of fluffed at least aren't too damaging. Right, like the Luton Town game, maybe here.
Okay, the Luton Town game is.
Yeah, the Luton Town was. Granted, I don't think we're winning the league. I think we're just gonna make top 4. So in terms of my expectations for Liverpool this year, it's not super damaging, right? But in terms of the Europa League, definitely, if there's a game where we decide to turn off, I think this is the one. Right, just trying to be positive here to add like a contrast to the entire mood. But you know what? If I'm talking shit, just call me out. So
yeah, I think no, I understand what you mean in terms of this game, right? It's not as costly by any means.
Yeah.
Luton game definitely is. Those are points that you do not want to drop if you're really serious on making a title run.
Yeah.
We can, argue about, we'll probably use next week to see, if this is a team that can make a title run. And honestly, the only way to even have that conversation next week is getting 3 points this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. If you drop points again this weekend, I don't even think that's a serious conversation to have next week.
Right. These are the fixtures.
Make a run.
Right. These are the fixtures in the schedule. I believe I mentioned it last Friday. Luton Town was kind of a must-win game, considering how our schedule is going to ramp up after the international break. We have City. We're going to face, I think, United at some point. So, it's going to get harder. If we're serious for a title challenge, we definitely couldn't have dropped points against Luton.
And then if you drop points again, it's like, I don't think top 4 is like a big concern for this team. I definitely think, this team will make top 4. But if you're going to think of even making a title run, you can't lose points to Luton Town and then especially double up with it, even if you can get away with maybe that in the long run by making a run. Because, City comes back in January and is going to win like 17 straight or whatever, and they don't have VAR problems somehow. So it's, you're battling in multiple fronts. But that's what I mean. It's hard to bitch about VAR and refereeing when you do not see the efforts on the pitch. And if anybody, you would have to be a really solid meathead if you really think that team played to his potential, even close to his potential, the last 2 games in a row. So Klopp comes out after the game last weekend and says, well, the boys did not press. We'll figure that out. I don't know. We didn't figure it out because I didn't see it again yesterday. let's say, okay, because this was the second batch or something like that. But I did not see a huge drastic improvements, to be honest, once we put in more starters. If anything, I felt like Toulouse got into a mode where they started to play, we got this, let's control this. And that was not the right way to do it. If they keep coming at us, I think it gets more embarrassing. They kind of pulled back a little bit, which made us look a lot more dominant in the game on like controlling possession and stuff like that. But honestly, we should have imposed that in the beginning against a game like Toulouse, and not being able to do that. I mean, it's kind of hard, obviously, if you have like multiple stinkers on the pitch,
Yeah.
which we did have with Endo and Costas. I mean, so let's talk about that. I mean, so are we going to have to play? So let's talk like what is wrong with Costas? Because this guy at one point looked like he was going to be. He was like he's just as good as Robertson, right? That was like 2 years ago, and we
Yeah.
kind of like talked about this in the past. That was probably made mostly because Van Dijk was a Superman, so it was fine. Like he covered his errors and stuff, but he looks a total different player. This is not just about. I mean, Robertson makes like defensive like brain farts as well that maybe Van Dijk covers. This is like he looks weak, like he like literally plays like a 12-year-old out there, like physically. He
Mhm.
looks weak, he looks uncertain, like zero confidence, and a shell of a player that we used to have.
Yeah, and the thing is, he wasn't superb to begin with. Like he was just fine, right? So going like those games where people were saying he was better than Robertson was just grossly exaggerated. I don't think we
Yeah,
played anyone in the top six when we were when we were calling him better than Robertson at all. So like everyone talks about like how he delivers balls better and so on and so forth, but it's that's just one thing. Like in terms of what Klopp needs from a left back, they need to be fast, they need to be physical, they need to make good decisions in transition, they need to be a good one-on-one defender. And Robertson, even in his declined state, is still 1000% better than
yeah.
Costas in those aspects. So it's not a question. And if you're asking, the question as to what's going on with Costas, I think he's just always been like this, Tim. It's just that the fact that
Well, why did
Robertson,
we sign him to an extension? I guess is the follow-up question to that.
yeah, I guess maybe there wasn't a player who was willing to sit down like 95% of the time, right? Because before this injury, Robertson very rarely gets injured, right? Like sure, he's
Yeah,
declined a little bit, and you can argue that the reason why Robertson has declined quite a bit is because he's been playing 95% of games, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that kind of like Fabinho thing where he gets worn down kind of is playing to him right now. So it's unfortunate, but he's what we have. And thankfully we do have another option there, which is Joe Gomez at right back. We lose some of that attacking impetus, I guess, but we haven't seen that from Costas yet. At this point, you know, considering we're a side like leaking goals, it's an absolute shoehorn for me, no brainer. You have to start Gomez. You have to start Gomez there at left back because Costas is not. He's not hacking it, unfortunately. Let me just say, all the fears that you brought up, everyone who went against you earlier this year about Costas are kind of eating their words now because this is just. I know you preferred that you wouldn't have been right, but here we are, right?
Thank you, thank you.
Really happens, by the way, the fact that you're just like, yeah,
Sergi says because it looks like he's always looked like he needs sleep. To be honest,
yeah.
and yeah, this is what I was just asking. Why do we offer him? Because he's always looked like he needs sleep, but he didn't play like he needed sleep. He plays like he needs to sleep now. By the way, Football Flashback says he bet last night that Gomez would score. What were the odds on that? Because I just want Gomez to score so that they stop talking about Gomez not having scored yet.
Yeah.
And he did come close. And I'm sure people will be like, if that didn't hit the crossbar and stuff like that. I don't agree with like Hassan. Hassan says yesterday's result does not change the table. I agree with that part. Teams have discovered how to beat us by defending the first 30 minutes and then score with attack. I honestly did not see a team in Toulouse that was like parking the bus, defending hard, or anything like
Yeah.
that. They just went out and played, man, and they played better than us because they
Oh,
worked harder than us.
right. All three goals as well were from our mistakes. Like first goal, obviously Simicast. Second was Diaz doing a Cruyff turn right? doing a
Yeah.
Cruyff turn at the edge of our box. And the third goal was everyone switching off. Trent, as usual, not tracking his man, and as he said, shouting at Matip for some reason, like as if Matip could teleport to where he was. Like I'm like, dude, come on, like this. But yeah, like if we're being real, if we're being impartial, right? Those goals were more Liverpool not being Liverpool than Toulouse. Like, of course, all credit to Toulouse,
Yeah.
but we played into their hands with those goals. If we just regained our composure for a second, none of those would have happened. That's all I'm saying.
And
And
I think I don't know what his stats are, by the way.
yeah,
But hold on, let me pull up his stats over here.
Football
Punches zero.
Flashback says we could have sold Simicast for 50 and got someone better like Destiny. Yeah, but would Destiny want to sit on the bench for like 95% of
And
his
I think
game?
that's the problem, right?
Yeah,
You need
yeah,
somebody who's going to be okay with being an understudy. But here's the thing, it goes back to what you're saying. If you're not going to be able to have him out there with confidence of being able to fill in, then
yeah,
you're back to playing Robertson 95% anyway. So
yeah.
like what are you really establishing by having somebody, sitting behind? And we know this is not the player because we've seen him before, but this has been going on for quite some time now. And yeah, I'm the bad guy when I called it out. But I mean, if you did not see this over the last year, anytime he's been out there, he has not performed really. And more than that, I mean, you cannot be a star or really come out like after the game like, oh man, he was like amazing on the left hand side. But like as you watch him, he looks so freaking weak, and that's not confidence. You know what I mean? Like you don't take a shot, you don't cross the ball, or you play it safe or whatever. That's maybe confidence, right? You don't whip the ball in like you used to from the left hand side. That might be based on confidence. But when you're folding over like you're like five, anytime you go shoulder to shoulder with another guy, that's not confidence. You're freaking weak. And as tight as he is with Mo, like I don't know if he's just spotting for him. Stop spotting and start working out with Mo because like
Yeah,
build a
exactly.
muscle, bro.
Exactly. Like if we're talking about him being there because just he's friends with Mo, like we sold Dejan Lovren, so it's like not even it's not even a thing about just being friends with the star player. Like, dude, come on, you gotta contribute around here. You gotta pull your own weight. So like I don't know if anyone stands Costas Simicas, it's not a good day for them right now. So whoever those
No,
guys
yeah, I think it's just like. But here's another thing, like what you were saying. I think you kind of these games only show the value of Ali, and not that Keller is at
right.
fault in any of the goals, but you just do not get that save. Like we got one against Luton Town,
Yeah,
in that game.
yeah.
What was that, like early in the second half or something like that? Every game Ali saves that ball that would have cost you, to fall behind. And
Yeah.
he is there. And like I say, I can't recall in any of the goals. I mean, any goal you can say he could have done better. But I don't think I saw a goal and be like, oh, that's on Keller or anything like that.
Yeah, the thing with Keller is, yeah, he hasn't been good this year, right? He hasn't been good. Like he's been okay at best, pretty meh at worst. And I think that plays in part rather is Allison being a demigod,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
that's fair.
where like he's a demigod, and then we have to substitute him with this mortal goalkeeper, right? This regular human goalkeeper who makes mistakes more often than not. So like, yeah, that's unfortunate. Like I was gonna bring up Kelleher and not kind of segueing from this topic, but I was gonna bring up Luis Diaz, man. Like I know he has a lot on his mind, but I don't know. The last this game kind of disappointed, and this is why I was kind of lobbying for Jota to maybe come on earlier or even start in his place. I felt like this wasn't the game to throw him immediately in the starting role, and it kind of didn't show it. His performance, it didn't help. Obviously, if it was different, if he managed to score a goal or everything, but it's like everything that Diaz does wrong was magnified 10 times in this game. Everything that we criticize him for, like holding on to the ball too often, trying to dribble past four players, kind of showed itself here. So I guess, do you think that, I don't know, with Diaz, maybe we've been spoiled with Sadio Mane, watching him for so long, but I can't say with supreme confidence that Diaz is going to be our number one there on the left side over the
Hmm.
next 2 to 3 years. What say you? It's just that I lost a bit of confidence from him, especially yesterday, because these are the kinds of games where Mane feasts on the opposing right back. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just felt like that's what I was expecting from him. Was it wrong for me to expect that? I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
I think the issue is, and that's what I saw yesterday in like him at times with McAllister. The team is in a rut, right? And you have this guy trying to make something happen, but he's actually making it worse because he is like diving in between four people and stuff because he's trying to show efforts and I guess fight that you don't see from the rest. And maybe that's their way of saying, come on, watch me, like, let's go and stuff like that. And trying to be that leader, but they're doing it in a way that ends up being detrimental to the overall cause because they're diving in 3-5 or they are forcing a pass instead of keeping the possession and stuff like that. I get that from Diaz. I feel like Diaz is at his worst when he's over trying. When the game is flowing, I think he's great in that piece. He's kind of like the wing back we want because he likes coming inside. And you would think him coming inside would help your left back be able to push. Once again, let's do this again, but not changing the system and keeping the guy on the left a lot more back because we don't have a right back because he's playing in midfield. This is another thing that has hurt is we do not get that push up and the overlap as much from your left back as you used to because everybody in the back three has slid a bit to the right to cover for Trent being in midfield. So, yeah, I will say this until it never changes because it doesn't look like it's going to change because we keep doing it. But, taking Trent out of that right back thing brings very few positives for all the negatives it brings. I really think that's a big negative it brings on the left-hand side, and it hurts a player like Diaz because you don't have that overlap. When he cuts inside, that's when he's going against 1v3 now because there's nobody overlapping to take at least one of those guys away. Or if nobody goes away, that he can play the ball to go down to the line. I think that's the huge problem. I felt like yesterday he would put in a performance, having the mind a bit more like cleared and stuff like that, like the relief. But I just felt like he was trying too hard. He's one of those guys when he tries too hard, it kind of backfires. Mo used to do that. Mo has matured over time, I feel like, right? Like he will play that ball back instead of trying to get in there and doing his dances and stuff in the box with three guys. He does not do that as much anymore. He does use the fact that he has three guys on him and moves the ball now. Diaz more says,
it's
go
just
in there and see what happens.
Right. It's just that for me, I realized yesterday that I prefer kind of like the what you see is what you get nature of Diogo Jota more than like the
on the left or on the pitch.
On the left.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of am leaning towards because with Jota, you know what you're gonna get. Subpar build up, a little dribbling, not too much speed, but extremely dangerous in the box, and that's all he is. With Diaz, it's like really high or really low, and I don't know if the like this year, right? He's had some superb games, but he's had some absolute stinkers as well. So I think like in terms of consistency, you get more with Jota on that side. Again, this might just be me like not being my bias of not being impressed with Diaz and being spoiled with Sadio Mane on that side through the years. But that's my 2 cents that I took out through not just from yesterday's game, but throughout the season. Like I prefer Jota maybe regularly starting on that side.
Yeah. Not me. Not on the left. I'm not a huge fan of Jota on the left.
You get one out of
every good performance every 3
seconds. You get 1 out of 5 for Diaz, though.
Right? I don't like him out wide. I do like him more in the middle. I just don't, because you lose the pace. But like I say, if we're not coming from the left-hand side, that is another byproduct.
Yeah, right.
Moving Trent to the middle and shifting everybody and not keeping your left back in the back. And obviously last week, it doesn't help when your left back is right-footed, right? And we saw that in the second half yesterday, and we saw that. And I thought, Gomez was probably our best player out there. Harvey, I felt like, tried hard and still stayed within the system. And he is the only guy that when you watch the game, he plays like how Liverpool normally plays in terms of the work rate and stuff like that. Sadly, sometimes his positioning or his pressing timing and stuff is a little off still. But effort-wise, pace-wise, intensity, I guess is the word I should use. Intensity-wise, I see that in Elliott. You can be as intense as you freaking want. If the people around you are out for a walk in the park, it's not going to do anything. You can press as hard as you want. If everybody's not pressing at the same time, it's freaking worthless. And that's why I kind of felt for Elliott. I was like, dude, stop running because nobody else is. Like, we're not pressing. You're just pressing by yourself. And you're not going to press by yourself and win the ball.
You know who else? You know who else we missed yesterday? I think you could guess who I'm going for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I don't think he was going to be your boy Gravenberg, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. We missed that drive from midfield. Like, as much as McAllister sprayed the passes, he's not as direct as Gravenberch would probably be in terms of like that setup, bringing the ball up front and causing chaos and making himself a threat. I felt like, not as a starter, right? I wouldn't start him in this game, but maybe as an option off the bench, I felt like we would have been better served if he came on instead of Szoboszlai, actually. Because like you said, what the hell did Szoboszlai do?
But I mean, that's the thing though. Before the game starts, you would be like, I would rather have Szoboszlai than Gravenberg. You're not going to know what kind of a shit performance you're going to get. And like you say, it's kind of hard to judge anybody out there walk into that shit show and just blending in. But in terms of Szoboszlai, yes, we have had like a poor run, I think, over the last 2 weeks or so now. And hey, I mean, we don't know, right? He was in all these charts as the guy who runs the most and stuff. And I know he's a young kid and stuff like that. So maybe that's building up, but it's a collective thing. And that's why I find it very hard to put it on a player. Like, yes, there was like 1 or 2 really shit performances that cost us an Endo and stuff yesterday. But I find it really hard to grab one guy and say, you don't have the intensity and you don't either. None of you guys have intensity. Well, if none of you guys have intensity, it's hard to put it on the player. It's just the overall mindset and how we approach that game. And that's, I think, why it was disappointing. Having said that, do you think now, being home and coming off a very clear, I just hope to God, I'd rather lose 3-2 than that stupid VAR call and stuff in the back, because I really did not want to, and that's why I didn't make that to talk this morning. Yes, it's a bad call, but if that's what you're making your agenda, you're going to find out in a couple of weeks over here that you are picking the wrong battle, one, and attacking the wrong thing, like finding the wrong problem for 2. But do you think it will very positively impact Brentford, or is it almost going to be just as a timid performance when they start out there?
The thing with Brentford is I feel like they can get aggressive, but I feel like they're very measured in their approach, and they know how we're going to attack, which is we're probably going to have 80% of the ball, right? But they don't care. They can have 5% of the ball, but if that 5% results in them getting a goal off the counter, they'll take that. So, yeah, I think it won't affect them too much that we're kind of out of form because they already have a game plan coming in. But it's inevitable that Thomas Frank might go like, hey, these guys are a bit wobbly right now. Maybe we can kind of catch them. I don't know if you recall the Bournemouth game earlier this year, where we were kind of expecting them to sit back, but they suddenly came at us, right, and forced that error off of Van Dijk passing to McAllister. So I could see a similar thing happening, honestly. And, Klopp again, is he watching film? Is he motivating his guys? He should be at this point because that's 2 games in a row. We should be ready for it.
He sounded like a guy fed up. I didn't know if it was fed up with the questions or the performance. So I guess we'll find that out.
These fans making noise because his area of press conference, right? The area where they were having his press conference, you could hear like the crowd making noise cheering on Toulouse. So I kind of feel like that's what also got him pissed off,
I mean, honestly, somebody has to get pissed off because I really felt like that was just.
Oh, we were though.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, you're gonna lose games. That's fine. And sometimes you're like, man, nothing goes in, and they do one counter, and geez, this is football is so unfair at times and stuff like that. Because it is, football can be an unfair and cruel sport at times. But none of that. I mean, that's not the case yesterday at all. I thought the team that deserved it more won. And you can say, oh, possession, blah, blah, blah. But really, like in terms of intensity and working hard on the pitch, they deserved it a lot more. And if you don't see that, I personally feel like you're in denial. But who starts at the 6? Who starts at the 3?
Starts at the 6.
Well, I mean, I'm old school. So who starts defensive midfield? Who starts?
Yeah. To be fair, I knew what you meant. To be fair, I knew what you meant. To my credit, I knew what you meant. Gomez, McAllister, for sure. Like,
McAllister is suspended.
Oh, right. Shit. Dang.
And that's why we were on Tuesday, Wednesday. We were like, "Hey, we'll maybe get to see Endo."
I forgot, and that's my bad to everyone watching. I forgot. So we're gonna have to put Endo there.
Jones is hurt.
Yeah, Jones is hurt. So it's gonna be Endo, Gravenberch if he's healthy, Soboslai. If Gravenberch is not healthy, then it's gonna be Endo, Soboslai, Elliott, right? For midfield.
Ugh.
Yeah. Right.
I know that.
Like, or you could put Gakpo there, but I have Gakpo starting up front. Like, he has to start up front against this Brentford team.
Yeah, that's a dangerous midfield. I mean, if you're putting him with Endo, if putting him like with Endo at the 6 and in front of Gravenberch, maybe I can go with that. But if you have Gravenberch at the 6, Szoboszlai, and then Gakpo, I don't know who the hell is going to defend.
Oh no. Like I feel like there's no question, man. We're putting Endo at the 6, right? Like, regardless of his performance.
Is it lack of options, you're saying?
Yeah, because of a lack of. I forgot. Like I said, I completely forgot that McAllister was suspended. So, like, Endo for sure. Because putting Gravenberch there is a waste. And if I was gonna nitpick on my boy, like, I know I'm working on my license to get more all access, right? So obviously this is off the record. He can be a little soft in terms of physicality, in terms of, going shoulder to shoulder and stuff like that. So we need like a true.
He's more lanky, like relies on sticking his foot out, like Matip, like if you will. Sir Z says Klopp hinted Trent is starting as DM.
Oh dear Lord!
Yeah, I did get that sense too.
To be fair, I haven't seen the press conference.
I don't know. Thank God I have the entire Saturday to kind of prepare myself for this on Sunday morning. But let's guessing touch up on this. I figured we're gonna have next week to kind of talk about it more in detail, but I kind of like tease it in the beginning. So let's just address this, and I'll just get your take on this. Like I said, there's a lot more to it when you read the full article in terms of like how he left and stuff like that. But like I say, next week during the international break, we can probably pick a day, one of the mornings probably, and go over this together. But he's talking about Salah used to frustrate everyone when he didn't pass the ball. He doesn't know if he was aware of it or not. I knew how to handle the situation better than most. Klopp addressed this issue in front of all of us. When a teammate was in a better position, the ball had to be passed. Clear hints aimed at Mo. Over the years, I must say this aspect of his game improved significantly, which I will agree. He gradually learned to be less selfish and more cooperative, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks a lot about the relationship with Mane and stuff. Are you surprised at all that these two guys were not really the best of friends?
No, not at all. Like, it's like, I mean, we clearly saw it the season we won the league where Mane was not happy with Salah at all during that Burnley game, and you know what? Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about it a while ago, where Salah was a bit of a ball hog. He still is now, to be fair. He can't have moments where that ball hog nature of his comes back, where there's a simple pass to be played, and for some reason he decides to shoot. So that's part of the reason his selfishness is why he's so good at being a great goal scorer. I feel like that's a default attribute that you have to have. But, as Bobby pointed out, as the years gone by, I feel like he's realized that in order for everyone to function better, he needs to pass the ball here and there. And, credit to Mo, he's evolved, right? He's evolved well. And he's probably the best all-around attacker in the Premier League and probably the world. So, it's a credit to him for that, for evolving. But yeah, what Bobby says is 1,000% true. I agree.
Honestly, I'm not shocked at all, and I did not expect it to be different. Like you say, we saw it then, and I feel like as a club, or in terms of Klopp at least, either we made it very obvious in that Burnley game. At the time, I was saying this too, that we are saying we value more, or it was a matter of Mane can handle being subbed out and cool off a lot better than Mo. Yeah. So, I mean, allowing Mane to leave, I think if Mane stays, we're just as dangerous and great still.
Yeah.
but you were not going to pay both of them that same amount. So that was
Yes.
never really financially an option. If it was financial, it's not like we let Mane go because they did not. And that's the thing, like, oh, Mane did not leave because they were not getting along, blah, blah, blah. We had to make a choice and we picked Mo. I always feel like it was the right choice because of this, the creativity. Because as Mane gets slower,
Yeah.
which, obviously with age, he will, his effectiveness changes because Mane's strength was that agility and not knowing where the hell he's going to go, his quick movement and stuff like that. With Mo, you get a lot of the creativity and everything like that too, and like a lot more of like a vision of the field. And I think maybe the defenses have forced Mo's hands. When you put a guy right in front of him and a guy 5 feet behind, he realizes that, hey, I'm overloaded on this side. Somebody else is open. And credit to him, he's playing that. But like you say, any striker that, freaking we've seen,
Yeah.
that,
It's selfish.
Suarez was like that. I mean, like Suarez was like that at times,
It's
like
just,
if Suarez doesn't score that from like halfway midfield where everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? Why don't we, like, we were on a counter, blah, blah, blah. But it's a striker. It's like a 3-point shooter, right? They're going to take the shot.
yeah, they're going to take the shot.
Make it every time.
Yeah, and continuing on the basketball references, Mane and Salah was kind of Kobe and Shaq to a lesser extent, right? Like they didn't like each other. Like Kobe and Shaq didn't like each other more, right? And I would say,
a lot more, yeah,
a lot more. And the credit to Mane and Salah, like I think Bobby touches on it, some of the quotes from his book. They remained professional about it.
Yeah,
and the fact that they did was all the more better for the team because it led to titles. So, say what you want about Mo, say what you want, if you have your preferences, if you like Salah more, if you like Mane more, the fact that they worked it out is a really good sign. And I see on Twitter people going like, oh, Bobby, why are you saying this? This doesn't help at all. Like, it's not like he's telling a lie though, is he? Like, it's so freaking
shocked. Like, I don't understand why anybody is like, "Oh my God, did you hear?" They're like, "Yeah, I did." You did not know? It's like, "Oh my God, you did not know?" Like, it's and they don't have to. I don't give a damn. If you really think everybody on that squad right now loves each other, man, you are naive as hell, or you have never worked outside of home in like environments where there's multiple people working together. You're not going to like everybody as long as you're productive together. That's all that matters. And here's the thing, that team was winning. That definitely helps that. When you're winning, it's a lot easier to see smaller annoyances. When shit goes down south, that's when those like little bitternesses you have in the background goes up. Those last few games of our quad-season forwards were getting more selfish. Honestly, yeah, I agree that definitely keeping, like, for the reasons I stated, not for the selfishness and all that stuff, but Salah is a more complete player. So if you're going to spend more money, definitely was the right choice. And yeah, the last few games, I agree with that. But like I say, they're strikers. When they make it, we're like, oh, it's so early. When they miss it, they were like, oh, should have played the pass. I feel I have seen more instances of Mo not passing than Mane not passing, to be fair.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I think so. And I think it's primarily because remember Mo's second season where everyone's calling him a one-season wonder. I felt like that guy got into his head and kind of pressed him to go like, these guys are wrong. I'm not a one-season wonder. I'm a two-season wonder. So he holds on to the ball too much. It kind of spilled over to his third season as well, though, like that whole Mane incident. So again, you can call it ball hugging, you can call it whatever you want. I just call it a striker's instinct. I feel like obviously Mo is a better scorer than Mane, and if you're a better scorer, you probably hold on to the ball more. You probably be a bit more selfish. So I think that's
you probably have overconfidence almost.
Right, you probably have overconfidence as well. So yeah. I mean, regardless of the nuances, regardless of the specifics of whether Salah was more selfish than Mane, so on and so forth. The good news is that it worked out. Yeah. We won everything under the sun. They were professional about it, and they can actually go to each other right now and shake hands and have fun. Right, nothing personal.
And actually, Bobby points out that he wasn't sure. It was kind of like the rivalry between the international teams. If you go against somebody regularly and automatically have that animosity and rivalry there, it's going to spill over here. You're not going to be able to, now we're wearing Liverpool jerseys. Like I said, I feel like people are way too naive. The reaction I saw to that told me that people are just too naive and think this is a fairy tale. This is like people at work, man. These guys are at work. They're professionals. So they're not going to love everybody, but they have a job to do. And as long as it's productive, they're going to do it. I just do remember, like I say, every striker has those moments where, like, dude, if he just kind of like played to the middle, right?
Yeah.
Instead of taking a shot, that's too tight of an angle to take a shot, or that's too far to take a shot from, blah, blah, blah. I just remember more instances of Mo not passing where it was a definite goal. Not like, oh, we had a better chance. Definite goal. Like it's a tap in if he passes. Then Mane doing the same thing. And like I say, though, having said all that, I feel like Mo has changed that a lot. Will he still pass that? I'm not sure because he's a striker and he wants to get the goals.
Yeah.
And he knows, every striker knows the goals is what makes you. Okay. But at the same time, I still think, kind of like what Sir Z says, we made the right decision in terms of which player we kept. If one of them, and clearly one of them was the option, and that was not because of the dislike. If you pay them both 300,000 a week, I think they're still playing together here, and we have Mane on the left hand side. That was not because they didn't like each other, so we can't sign them both and stuff. It was more about basically money. We didn't want to tie down wages. It's just two aging wingers. It just doesn't make any sense. So, but I mean, it's worked out. There's a lot more. We'll definitely like dig into it one day next week during the international break and talk about it, because he kind of talks about his last season and a bit more about this relationship. And I think we all knew that Bobby was the Bond. Like I say, I'm more shocked at the shock than anything else. It's like, why are you guys so surprised? But we'll dig into more quotes and stuff like that next week on it. Do you want to make an early prediction for Sunday before we meet for the pre-match?
I said 5 or 6 yesterday, so
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
There were 5 goals.
Yeah, there were 5 goals, but I'll try and do a reverse psychology thing, because as Sir Z pointed out the last time, try for me not to jinx anyone, I think it's going to be a really hard game. I think it's a 2-1 win, but a really, really hard win where we win just. Like we get a goal at the 80th minute or something to win it.
Sparky says a 2-1 win, and Sparky is usually the conservative one, to be fair. And yeah, I'm worried about this one, man. I'm worried about this one. I can see this going really ugly, or I don't know if people get slapped around a little bit, and we'll see the reaction. But I'll be honest, if this team comes out flat again, then do you start questioning that? You definitely start questioning your goals for the season, right? If you lose points, but more on that, like the mindset of the team, and this is a good test for, I think, Klopp to show that he can whip some ass and get the focus right. Being home is a huge advantage. I would be probably 10 times more worried if it was away.
I'll do you one better, man. We drop points there. Are we still challenging for the league?
No.
Yeah.
No. I honestly, like, you drop points, and I know, like, everyone's like, it's only November. It just shows your. I know if you can't get 3 points from these games, you're not gonna, and you do not want to fall behind to City and stuff and chase them down. I think Sir Z was mentioning it earlier that they are more susceptible to losing points and stuff like that. But I don't think you lose points to Luton Town and at home and then say, we're challenging for the title. 1-1, says Cersei, and he says you should watch the match.
Yeah, I could probably jinx the hell out of them, to be fair.
Man, they should have 4 this game, huh?
Yeah. Oh, they should be getting away with these 115 charges, huh? It's absolutely no question they're going to get away with this.
Yeah, I just hope, man, the mindset changed a little bit. Like I said, yesterday's game, they were meh, so I was meh as I was watching it, and it didn't really affect anything at the end of the day, so it wasn't as damaging, and I did not even get too upset about the call, about the performance. I was like, whatever, let's just hope it creates a positive for this weekend. So we'll see if that happens, but tune in then. We'll do the pre-match once the lineup comes over here. See what comes out. It's going to be a very interesting lineup just because of the injuries, not to mention some of the performances we saw yesterday. Do we see Costas again? Does he get like a morale boost in terms of go out and make it right? Does Endo get the same? Go out there and make it right?
Do we see Gravenberch?
Because of how what was that?
Do we see Gravenberch? Is also
I mean, yeah, is he healthy? But I mean, for those two guys, it will be interesting to see how Klopp handles it and says, you guys suck. Go sit at the end of the bench, or you guys are good players and use this as a morale and like a motivation thing and say, go out there and make it right, show them why you're here kind of thing. So I'm more interested to see that. And if he does that, how do those two guys respond to it and stuff? So an interesting Sunday awaits. But take Saturday off, build the energy, because you will be drained Sunday morning watching this game, I think. And then
get some reckless coffee to keep you
grab
guys in.
some reckless coffee. And as always, go grab somebody and say, come here Sunday morning, subscribe to these guys and watch the pre-match with me and comment and join the conversation. But we'll see you guys then. Have an awesome Friday and Saturday, people. See you guys Sunday morning. Take care.
Take care, guys. Don't be complacent.
Have a good one.